Hey, would you like some delicious cherry cake? I guarantee it's the best you've ever had. What? What do you mean it's unappetizing looking? Well, alright, it's your loss, I guess. Besides, you're on the other side of the screen anyway. And I really just wanted to make a point, though. I mean, sure, it didn't look like cake, but even if it was shaped like cake, the color was horribly off-putting. Because of marketing and advertising, we've come to expect everything cherry-flavored to be red. What if you didn't? What if instead, because of how your particular brain is wired, everything cherry-flavored sounded a certain way, like a cowbell? Hello friends, welcome to Mr. Snail's Wild Ride. I am Mr. Snayl and the wild ride is my life so far. You know, that whole cherry always being red thing is common with a lot of flavors. Like lemon stuff is usually yellow and grape stuff is usually purple. Once my friend Eric poured a can of orange soda into a glass. It was this weird light green color, like watered down lemonade. But we all went nuts because it tasted exactly like it was supposed to. We went nuts because of stuff I've been talking about. We've been classically conditioned to associate certain flavors with certain colors automatically. Classical conditioning occurs when you take a neutral stimulus, like the color orange, and it's paired with a reflexive, usually biological response, like one associated with food, such as a citrus flavor. Now, in the case of my orange color orange soda example, that's not really a good illustration of true classical conditioning because the two responses are usually quite different, like a bell and salivating. People commonly have all kinds of conditioned associations. Like if you smell a certain perfume or cologne, you might think of a specific person that used to wear that from a time in your past. Or particular sounds often have very specific associations of their own. However, there are some people who will have a primary sensory experience followed by a secondary sensory experience. Now this is different. The two sensations are not associated. Although they're caused by the same stimulus and they happen at the same time, they're separate, and the person knows that they're separate. This is called synesthesia. A common form of synesthesia is when a person perceives numbers to be inherently colored. This is called grapheme-color synesthesia. Now keep in mind, this is not a form of hallucination or color blindness. Let's say you've got a guy with grapheme-color synesthesia who always experiences the color green when he thinks of or sees the number 8. If he goes to the hardware store to purchase address numbers to go on his house, and those numbers are a certain color, like gold for example, when the guy spots the number 8, he can see that the number is gold, but his synesthesia causes him to also experience the color green. Or maybe it's purple, or maybe even the color of the sky. Whatever color it is that he always associates with the number 8. Each of the other numbers likely have their own colors associated as well. And of course, no two synesthetes have the same associations. My own personal synesthesia manifests as visual forms in response to sound. Not all sound, really. It's usually to music. These visuals tend to be shades of brown, or else black and white sine waves with really sharp peaks and valleys, or sort of wide rolling curves, depending on what it sounds like. So why does this happen to anybody? Or why doesn't it happen to everybody? Why do some people experience synesthesia and other people not? And why does it seem to happen somewhat more frequently in the autism population than it does in the neurotypical population? Well, of course, nobody really seems to have an answer for any of that yet. Studies suggest that there's likely a genetic component, and with a slowly accruing body of data that supports the idea that there are genetic components to autism, the idea isn't too far-fetched that there could be a link between the two. Think you might have synesthesia? It's more common than you might have guessed. As many as 1 in 300 people have it. If you're unsure, there is of course an online test you can take. I put a link for it in the spat boop down below. If you don't want to take the test but are curious, the site does have some demo versions and screen caps that you can check out. And if you want any of your friends to check out this video, just be sure to share it with them down below, and be sure to press like while you're at it. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'll be sure to save you some cake. We've come to expect anything to be cherry... You know, that whole cherry be always... For example, when you smell a certain perfume or cologne, you might think of a certain person that used to wear it a lot from a certain period of time in your life. This is not an associated sensation package thing. There are some people who will have a primary secondary